I spent the first 10 years of my life calling Sarah my cool, older aunt. She lived in our basement, blasted alt-rock, and always smelled like vanilla and cheap coffee. Pop raised me, and whenever I needed a field trip signature or help with math, he'd yell, "Go see your Aunt Sarah, kiddo." I thought it was completely normal. Sarah was 24 when I was 10, which should have been my first clue. But kids don't do the math on age gaps. She drove me to school in an ancient, rusted-out Jeep and let me control the radio. She showed up to every track meet, screaming louder than anyone, and even skipped her college finals to nurse me through the flu with chicken soup and trashy TV. The truth came out in the weirdest way. I was being a nosy 10-year-old, digging through an old shoebox in Pop's closet for baseball cards. Instead, I found my birth certificate. My name was at the top, but where it said mother, it had Sarah's full name. Sarah Michelle Evans, not an aunt. My mom. My brain glitched. I ran into the kitchen, waving the paper, yelling, "Why does this say Sarah is my mom?" The house went dead silent. Pop froze with a spatula mid-air. Sarah choked on her juice. Then, they both started talking at once. Pop explained they were trying to protect us from small-town gossip. Sarah was only 14 when she had me, barely a freshman. They thought it would be easier if the world believed I was Pop's surprise, late-life son. At first, I was furious. I felt like my childhood was a lie. I yelled at Sarah, and she broke down crying, saying she was terrified I'd hate her for not being a real mom. But then, I started remembering. I remembered how she saved her diner tips for 3 months just to buy me expensive basketball sneakers. I remembered her staying up until 2 a.m. gluing cardboard planets for my science project, even though she had a double shift the next morning. Once the secret was out, everything changed. Sarah proudly introduced me as her son to anyone who would listen. Things got funny by high school. Since she was only 14 years older than me, she knew exactly what teenage boys were up to. When I started talking to Chloe, a girl from a wealthy, picture-perfect family, Sarah turned into an FBI interrogator. Turns out she was right. One afternoon, I overheard Chloe on speakerphone mocking my family to her friends, calling us total chaos and saying she only hung out with me because I was edgy. I walked straight out of the schoolyard and called Sarah. She picked me up in 10 minutes, the Jeep rattling down the road. I told her everything. Sarah pulled over, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "Hey, our life isn't a mess. It's our story, and you don't ever let anyone make you feel small for how you were loved." We ordered a massive pepperoni pizza, stayed up playing video games until sunrise, and I blocked Chloe's number before the cheese even got cold.